Okay, we're looking at 2.1.20, and right here we just do some simplifications and we end up with I to the 127th power. From here we could just say, you know what, I to the 4th power is just 1, so we could continue on and say, well, I to the 25 times 4 plus 27, split these up to I to the 25 times 4 times I to the 27th. Then we could go on to say I to the 4th to the 25th times I to the 27th. And then we know that this is 1, so 1 to the 25th power is just 1, so we end up with just I to the 27th, and we can repeat this process. So we can use 4 times 5 now. So I to the 4 times 5 plus 7, that's 27. So again, that is I to the 4th to the 5th times I to the 7th equals 1 to the 5th, which is just 1. So that's just I to the 7th. And then we know I to the 4th is 1. So we end up with I to the 3rd. And then I to the 3rd power, well, that's I to the 2nd times I. We know I to the 2nd power is -1. So we end up with -I, and we can finish there. But I kind of like this other route where we use this formula, because that's just basically what we're learning in this class. Z to the n equals a plus bi to the n, which is this. I'm talking about this here, which ends up being this here. When we multiply the modulus, but we add the arguments, and that's like the whole idea of what we're learning in this chapter. So I went this route. First thing to do is, in order to go this route, we gotta first put I into polar form. So we know that's 90 degrees. And so then we say we got polar form. And don't forget this part right here, the modulus of it, because that's like, again, the whole idea of it. And then when we take 1 to the 127th, we actually get 1, but we're not forgetting about it, right? And so then we end up with where we're adding the degrees now, or adding them over and over, which is multiplication. And then I get to this point here where I say I get 11,430 degrees. So what I do is I know that 360 degrees is just equal to 0 degrees, right? But I can also multiply both sides by 10, and I know that 3,600 degrees is also 0 degrees. So what I did here is just continue subtracting 3,600 from 11,430 until I get to a reasonably small number. And then at that point, I start subtracting 360 until I get to a reasonable amount where I already know the sine and cosine of those values. So I know the cosine of 270 is 0. I know the sine of 270 is -1. So I times -1 is just -I. And then we get the same answer as what we did above. So we could do it this way and end up with -I, or we can go this other route. And I kind of prefer this other route because it helps us do what we need to learn in this class.